There's a storm across the valley. The clouds are rolling in. The afternoon is heavy on your shoulders. There's a truck out on the 4-lane, a mile or more away. The whining of his wheels just makes it colder.
Welcome to Community Forum. Your host, Priscilla Almquist-Olsen. Today is Wednesday, August 25th, 2021. And we are sitting here without our masks on, and we are enjoying the getting a little bit back to normal. With me today as my guests are Ann DeSanto and her husband John DeSanto. They are the owners of the History Room in South Easton on Depot Street. I'm sure you have gone by their sign, and many of you have dropped in to enjoy all of the items that they have. A really eclectic assembly, and we have that eclectic assembly here on the table for you to see. So welcome, Ann, John. It's wonderful to see you, and let us know a little bit about your 36 years here in Easton and 36 years in business in Easton.
Well, it's been a joy. It's been also a wild ride. We've been together, we just celebrated our 38th anniversary. And when we were very young, it was sort of like Green Acres. My husband came home one day and said, I bought the store that I'm teaching in. And I dropped everything and jumped in with him, and we started a business. I think I was 24.
Yeah, you were 22.
22, 23. We were very young.
I bought a music store.
And he bought a music store without telling me, honey, I'm home. And we borrowed a lot of money, and we did very well with it in Stoughton and Cobb's Corner, in a little tiny spot. And then in 3 years, we were busting out. We had more teachers. We taught ourselves. John's a drum instructor. I do piano and voice. And we ended up, we bought a house in Easton, and then the building came up for sale, that beautiful building at 350 Depot. It's from the 1850s. A lot of people don't know it's the original center school of Easton.
Is it really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
At one time, it was a one-room schoolhouse with a potbelly stove. And it had quite a lengthy history. It was a VFW, as many people know. It was different offices. It was a school.
Chiropractor
owned it.
A blind chiropractor.
Yes,
from
Dr. Catwick, I think his name.
Yep.
So it has a bit of a history. And when we first bought it, it still had the old like bar room from the VFW in the basement. So we updated everything and built teaching rooms. And then we had a retail space with a music store and school for 24 years there. And then we, in our back nine, we sold the school business, and now we converted it to, John could expand his tuning and piano business. And so now when you walk in, you see beautiful pianos that are restored, estate pianos, surrounded by antiques, and we still do our lessons.
You know, speaking of history, John, tell me a little bit about your history.
Sure. As far as my career?
Your child, both of you, your childhood and where you
I grew up in Hyde Park, and parallel, Ann grew up in Hyde Park as a child too, but we didn't know each other. And then we moved to Canton and went to high school, and we were in the band together. And then we realized I had a thing for her, and I went home and told my parents, I said, hey, I met this girl in high school. She plays the piano. I met her in the band. And my mother said, oh, what's her name? I said, Pulsini. She goes, are they from Hyde Park? I said, I don't know. So when I went back to school, I asked Ann. Turns out her grandmother, my grandmother, they knew each other in Italy. And they both came over here on the same boat, and grew up in Hyde Park. And but before that, Ann's grandmother delivered my aunt in Italy. So they not just knew each other, they really knew each other. But we didn't know that. Me and Ann didn't know that at the time. And then we found out Ann's grandmother was adopted by my family, and so we did a little research. And
No, the other way around.
No.
My grandma
was adopted.
was biologically the cousin of your grandma,
that's
and my
right,
grandmother was
okay.
adopted. They were very poor there in Italy. They gave away the last 4 kids to a neighbor.
Yeah.
And so we only knew my grandmother's adopted name.
Right. Bottom line is,
until we figured it out.
we're third cousins.
Yeah, it's kind of
So
crazy.
that's why we waited a while before we had children.
So we, that was the only reason my parents would let me date anyone. It was either that or a
Yeah.
convent. So
Yeah.
luckily we could trace his family back, so we were okay.
My family was all musicians,
Yeah.
and my father was a drummer. I'm a drummer, and he had a band, including my sister and my brother, and they played a lot at the Knights of Columbus in Canton, who was that was run by her father. So that's why I got to date her, because they were really strict. But if it wasn't for that connection, I never would have got to go over her house.
Really?
No.
That was the
Yeah.
Italian, old Italian way.
Absolutely. I had a curfew up
Yes.
until I was married. It was the craziest thing.
Yeah.
So, you
Yeah.
know,
So-
but we were in the high school band together in Canton, and we were just 1 year apart.
I
It
see.
was pretty
Yeah.
crazy.
So, don't you think, John, that there is a genetic, there's a gene that's passed down, that musical gene?
Yes, yeah, I do believe that.
And just like there are artists too.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. I think because I've done a lot of teaching, and I usually find out from the student if there's music in their family. I can almost tell just by the way they develop, the way they approach things, the way things just come naturally to certain people. There is that gene where you go, how did you learn that? I don't know. It just sort of came out.
Yeah,
You know, that
interesting.
type of thing. Yeah.
So you tell us a little about your career and where you started.
Okay. Well,
Where
as
you
a
went to
drummer,
school.
yeah, as a drummer, where I went to Berkeley College of Music. I graduated back in '82,
Yeah.
a long time ago, and I went into music ed, so I started teaching, but I didn't like public school teaching. I felt it wasn't a good fit for me. That's why I bought the store. I was teaching in school, teaching private lessons after school, and that's the place where I bought the business. The guy was having a bad day, he owned it, and I made him an offer, and he took it. So I went home literally thinking, what am I going to tell my wife? I just bought a store. You know, so that was a wild
But your
day.
drumming, you've been all over the place.
Yeah, the
with
drumming has gotten, I got better and better, and I got better gigs all the time. And now I got to the point where I was playing national shows. I was up till COVID, playing all over the country with the Rat Pack show, the Vegas Rat. You know, I'm the drummer for that show. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So we play big theaters, and you know,
How exciting.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was
So-
a great gig, and hope
so-
it comes back.
It was a good thing that actually you started teaching public school and having the side job of
Well,
private
my mother didn't
lessons.
want me to go to Berkeley unless I did that. That was her thing. She said,
Oh.
"Oh, you can go to Berkeley, but don't go in." They have back then. They had 3 programs. They had performance, they had education, or composition. Now, I'm not much of a writer for music, and I wasn't sure at the time if I was good enough to go into performance, because those are the best players went into that. But the education was probably the hardest, because you have to take more courses and things like that.
But
So I did do
it
that.
gave you a contrast, didn't it? So,
Yeah.
So if you hadn't had that public school piece, you would never have known
That I didn't like it.
that that
It wasn't for
a
me.
good fit for you.
Right. Yeah.
So
it's
having
hard.
the
It's not
teaching
easy.
privately was, and now you've been doing that for 36 years anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Private. I'm much better at teaching one-on-one than in
Right.
a
Okay,
group.
and tell us a little bit about your background. I mean, you have that musical gene also.
Well, I started very young on the piano, did all classical for like 11 years, and then I got into playing at church. And so I've been a church music director in one form or another for, 30-something years. And I was into the writing piece too, but I always taught. I love teaching one-on-one. Because I have anyone from like very elderly people or cognitive loss people to special needs children. I also spent 10 years working in dementia units, doing music and as an activities director while still owning the store. I kind of don't know how I did that. I was full-time in 2 worlds. I don't know. But I see the power of music, how it affects people, even people with impairments, and what joy it brings. So at church especially too, you just don't know who you're helping. I got into composition in around early 90s, I think, and I have 6 albums out, CDs. the family was always into, oh yeah, she's a musician,
yeah.
why don't you get a steady job kind of thing. They were more old school. But until I got a call from the Pope, and they picked one of my songs for Pope John Paul II, and I thought it was a prank call. And I thought it was our guitarist Greg, who lives in Easton. And
Who can imitate anybody.
The guy calling sounded just like Father Guido Sarducci from Saturday Night Live. And I answered the phone. I go, and I said, cut it out. And I'm telling, and it's the nuncio for the Pope, and they put me on speakerphone, and you heard all these Italians talking at once. I go, it is Rome. So I was able to take the Holy Cross Church Choir from Easton to the UN, and we joined forces with like a 90-piece choir there, and filmed it and sent it to the Vatican Square.
And she
it
goes,
was crazy.
And the director goes, okay, let Bocelli finish first.
Yeah.
Andrea Bocelli was singing, and then we're coming in
I was
after
squished,
him.
yeah.
We're with the heavies.
I was the cutaway between Andrea Bocelli and Aretha Franklin. And John says, the whole world's probably looking saying, who's that? But that was fun. So then my family, I guess I gained a little headway with my family that I was on the map.
Yeah,
once you're an Italian who sings for the Pope, I guess you make it.
She's not from a musical family.
So you actually were the lead singer of the song you composed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
For
I
the
have
Pope.
yes.
It's called Year of Hope.
Yes.
I think the Pope liked the name of the song.
He picked it for an anthem, for a papal anthem, which was the Prodigal Son year. And Andrea Bocelli was the main feature he had. And the song was, they used my song as the anthem for that year. So it was really cool.
What year was it?
1999.
99.
Oh my
yeah.
goodness,
It
how
was great.
exciting and
Yeah.
how wonderful.
It was
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it was.
I got a call, and the call came on June 18th, right before we went out. We only had a short time, a couple of
We
weeks.
went out, it was
June 30th.
June 29th.
Yeah, so we only had a short time to pull it together. I got a call on like June 18th, and we had to perform the 29th in New York City. And the June 18th was the anniversary date of a sad event I had experienced years before. And so I know it was God just kind of lifting us up there. So
So you
ever
didn't
since
perform
then,
you didn't perform in Rome, you performed in New York City.
in UN.
She could
At
have.
the UN.
Yeah.
She decided not to.
Yes, I could have gone to
because-
Rome alone.
Yeah.
or
It
brought
was
the
either-
choir from
It was either
Easton
Rome alone
to
or
New
bring her
York.
whole choir to New York, so she chose that for
I
the
thought it would
kids.
be much more fun.
So it was
Yeah.
the choir from Holy Cross?
Yep,
Yes.
the children, yeah.
Oh, the
It was,
children.
and teens, yeah. It was great.
Mm-hmm.
And we brought the staff. And
We had a whole
it
bus
was.
ride
I
down
figured it'd be
there.
more fun to share the experience than just go fly there by myself and on the veranda.
How interesting. Now, do you
Yeah.
have the DVD of that?
I
don't
think it's
think-
on. Yes, it's on
it's on
CD someplace,
something,
DVD
yeah.
someplace. Yeah, we
Okay.
used to play it on what was the cable, and
Okay,
Easton
well, I
Cable. They
think-
played it. It's pretty
Yeah.
old now, but yep, I
I
probably
think
have to
that
upgrade it.
okay. I think that's something that ECAT
Yeah.
can play again.
Okay, we did a little rockumentary because the kids were cute. We interviewed them on the bus, and on the way home, how's it feel to sing for the Pope? And they went, we really like the gift shop. So it's kids are kids, and it kind of straightens you right out, you know.
I don't think it really hit them what we just did.
It was
you know.
great.
Yeah.
So ever since then, I've been super inspired, and my specialty is writing songs that have a theme. I've written songs for the Easton vets, and then they've used it for fundraising. A CD that I wrote for them after 9/11, and some of that was also used to build the mall for the veterans in Washington D.C. So that CD we do sell now. The money goes to charity for that.
I see.
And I love writing patriotic songs and social justice kind of songs. And then I have some regular standard Christian songs. I'm a frequent performer on Catholic TV, and I've been on EWTN, Mother Angelica's show, and in Alabama. And that's it. And I talked too fast for them, and the guys in the recording booth there kept saying, Ann, can you slow down? And here's
She
this
does
girl
talk
from
fast,
Boston.
you know.
Yes, I was
in
just.
Alabama. It was
I
really
forgot-
great. The
Yes, you
people are
know,
great.
Ann, I forgot to tell you that before we recorded. Try to slow down.
Okay.
Everyone has always told her that when she's on TV. It's like, especially down the South.
Well,
talk
yes,
Yeah.
but some people have difficulty
Yeah.
understanding
Yeah.
you, and it's so important for you to get out the message. Think of it that way.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we have on this table an assembly of and a variety of items that one can find in the history room. How did it come about? You were teaching classes. and
Oh, how did this come
Yes,
about?
how did
we
this-
always we always were antiquers. We always like collecting. So that's been like a hobby gone mad.
Yeah.
Basically, when we decided to go into this, it was one of those decisions where we sold our business but kept the building. So when that person had to go, he was going to move to another place. We said, what do we do with the building? We're going to sell it, or, you know? And then we thought, well, why don't we do our, you know, other passion, which is this?
Okay.
So we combined it and did kind of both.
Interesting.
Well, the historical side is John's great-great-grandfather was in the Northern Union Army during the Civil War, and he was in 9 battles and wounded in 5 and kept volunteering to go back. So we always had an interest in the Civil
Yeah.
War, went to the battlefields.
It's
even
not
wrote
my
a song
Italian
about
side.
it.
That's my German side. My
Yeah,
mother was
his
German,
mom's
so that's
side.
my
And
great
it was your great-grandfather?
grandfather.
Great-great.
Yeah.
Oh, great-great-grandfather.
Yeah, he was in the 20th Mass, which
Yeah.
was a
Yeah.
very busy. That was a
Regiment.
very busy regiment. They were like the 5th on the list as far as battles
And also casualties.
casualties.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's what it. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I've
yeah.
done a little research on him, and yeah, he was quite a.
And did he
Quite a-
survive the war?
He did, and tragically, he got hit by a streetcar
No.
in 1899. I think it was like the first year we had streetcars. And he was probably completely deaf because he was in the front line of Pickett's Charge when that cannonade, you know about the cannonade, 2 hours before that battle, the South just blasted away and a lot of guys went deaf.
Yeah.
And I think he probably had serious damage from that.
Yeah.
And that's why we think he just didn't hear the streetcar, and that's how he passed away.
So he was killed instantly.
1899. Yeah, but he got to live. I mean, because the war
Right.
was over in 65.
Right.
Had a life.
Yeah, he was born in 1835. He died in 1899.
So our living room was all wall to wall, you know, that memorabilia from Civil War battles and so forth, and the particular artwork that depicted the battles he was in. And my son, when he was little, we didn't call it the living room, he called it the history room.
Oh.
So when we needed to name the shop, when we opened
Yeah,
it, I
that's,
said, I have the name. And that's how it's kind of an odd name, but I
Yeah.
don't know, I think it fits us.
So now how old are your kids today?
Oh, old.
No.
24 and
18.
18. My
Oh,
daughter's
okay.
18.
So they're still young people.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're young,
Yeah.
I guess.
So what has given you the most pleasure? Do you think? Is it the musical world? It is the collecting world? Is it a combination of
Well,
both?
the music world for me is exciting. I mean, it's nerve-wracking playing in front of 4,000 people right before you go on. It's nothing like it. And then if you do a good job, you feel like you're on top of the world.
Exactly. And when is that life going to resume for you?
Geez, I don't know.
It's sort of
It's
coming
coming
now.
back a little.
You've
I
got
got
a gig
one,
Sunday
yeah,
at,
but just they're
with
still
the
local.
Sinatra.
Like
Yeah.
I started out local. The reason why I got picked for the Rat Pack show is because when it came to New England, I got called to play. When it came to the Boston area, I would do the drumming, and that was like just once a year. So after a few years of that, I got the call, and the director said, "Yeah, we want you you want to play with the Pops?" And I said, "Oh, great! I was the Boston Pops." I said, "Sure, I'll do the show." Because sometimes we do it with a big orchestra, and I called some of my local musician friends around the area. I said, "Hey, did you get the call for the Pops?" And they said, "No, we didn't get the no." I said, I'm thinking, what's going on? So I called the director back. I said, "Who's on there?" He goes, "Do you have a passport?" I said, "What are you talking about?" He goes, we're going to Winnipeg." I said, "Winnipeg? The Winnipeg Pops." So he says, "Yeah, we're going to carry you," meaning they're going to bring a drummer. Because usually when they do shows in every city, they just use the local union of whatever city they're in. But the drum chair is kind of hard. And if they had a lot of drummers would blow it and not do a good job. So because I knew the show, they said, "We'll carry him." So I got to do, so I play with musicians I don't even know every time. So when I go to like Detroit or Chicago, whatever. So the drum chair is mine, and then I play with all these other guys, and they're just like reading the charts for the first time.
How exciting.
It is. It's very
And
exciting.
how fulfilling.
Yeah, and it's a perfect gig because it wasn't all the time. It'd be like once a month. The Rat Pack plays 6 nights a week in Vegas. And then once in a while they go on a tour. They go out and we'll do like 2 or 3 shows, and that's when I come in. So I only play like once a month. Like for a weekend, I'll be gone from like Thursday to Sunday.
But that's a wonderful experience
Oh,
and
it's
so
great.
exhilarating.
It is.
Now, you do piano tuning also.
Yeah.
How is that going?
Very physical. I got a trigger thumb. My hand kill. It's much more physical than playing drums. Believe it or not, it's very hard. Tuning pianos is not easy.
And how did
I
you-
started that later in life.
And how did you come to learn about that?
I was in a band, a local band, where the leader was a piano tuner. And he wanted to do a recording, because I have a recording studio as well. And he says, I want to do a recording of the band to help promote it. I said, okay. So I didn't know how to charge him. This is a guy I work for. I didn't want to, you know. So I thought, hey, tell you what, why don't you teach me how to tune a piano? Because I just wanted to tune for myself, and I'll record the band. So one thing led to another. I got really into it. Not only did I learn how to tune it, I learned how to fix it, restring, fix. So I got really into it. So we borrowed it, and he got a CD out of it, and I got education of tuning and fixing
And now
pianos.
he's in the guild, and he
so I
repairs a few days a week for the
And
Steinway
I
place.
work at Avery Piano, which is a big piano shop down in Rhode Island.
Now, I have a player piano that I have. It's a really old one, probably from the 20s or 30s, and it needs to be tuned.
Okay.
Is that something you could tackle?
Yeah, that's challenging, because you got to take out the player mechanism, because the player mechanism is in front of all the pins.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, it was a big job to do that. Some guys, a lot of guys will just not do it.
But
I'm
you
not
will.
afraid. Yeah, I'll tackle
Okay, everybody,
anything.
you heard that.
I'll do it.
So, when I visit the history room, I like to look for Scandinavian items, but I also love the jewelry section, Anne. Can you tell us what the scope of your jewelry is? I mean, the types and the years.
Sure. I try to keep things affordable too. Sometimes we get a really lovely rare piece, and that'll go on our eBay store. We have a little eBay store at the history room too. But I love that mid-century, affordable, high-end costume, but it's very affordable, and the finish on it is beautiful. You'd never know a piece would be 70 years old picking it up. We do some nice old pocket watches, beautiful old cameos. And at Christmas, I do make the jewelry trees that people, it's like a little Christmas tree made out of jewelry, cameos, and gems that might have a flaw or something, just like they do with the bridal bouquets. So I just love that vintage stuff, anything from Victorian to mid-century.
You know, it's interesting you should say that about the mid-century 1950s, 60s jewelry, because I have a lot of that, and the finish, it looks brand new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just, a lot of it was made in Germany, post-war Germany, and there was a good amount of good quality metals still there from their
Yes.
wartime things.
Their quality,
Yeah.
whether the Germans do quality work,
Yes.
whatever it is.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's cars or,
Yep.
you know, anything technical
Yeah.
also.
Right.
And the crystal would be Austrian crystal. And so I think the mid-century jewelry, the things were coming from all over Europe, and the quality was good. And the American-made flashings were really good. It's really high qualities, and some France. So something that looks like that was just a fake set of pearls in the 50s looked like the real deal. And so women can wear that and not worry about it, you know, especially working people.
And your prices are so reasonable.
Thank you.
Yes, I mean, it's hard to believe that you're an antique store. I mean, because they're always trying to triple, quadruple the price, and you have a very reasonable price, and it makes somebody want to come back, because I know I feel as if I'm being catered to, you know,
Oh, thank
Oh,
not cheated,
thank you. Thank you.
but
Well,
catered to.
I don't know, we just like
We
to
have
sell things
a lot
for-
of loyal people for the jewelry
Yeah.
section. I recognize a lot of the women mostly.
Yeah.
And I'm really bad with names, but I know I've seen them in, and they constantly come back. And so it's like we have a good loyal following for just the jewelry part alone.
Yeah.
More than, and we also have a good following of mostly younger people for the albums.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
So I see you
popular.
have the mystery tour, magical mystery tour
You like that?
by the Beatles.
I don't know why she brought that one, but
I don't know,
yeah,
just
a
yeah.
sample,
we
just
sell records is our probably most frequent purchase.
This is one
Yeah.
of my favorites.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
wonder
it
how
is.
much it costs.
The Beatles are very hot. Those albums,
I know.
yeah, they go quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There has been a resurgence. We have two record rooms, kind of a mellow mid-century and then one that's pop and rock. And there has been a resurgence. I think that COVID did bring people back to some of their youth, and they don't feel guilty playing a record. They had the time, and then they realized they like the sound, and it's a nice work of art. Some people just buy them to display, just like an old camera They're not taking a picture with it, but they put it up. It's charming. And,
Yeah,
I don't
well,
know.
it's interesting
Sweet.
because during, I guess, last Christmas, right? So it was 2019, and COVID was just happening, but it had nothing to do with that. It was my, I saw how players, record players, were coming back into vogue.
Yeah.
And so I told my daughter and her husband that I wanted, I wanted a record player for Christmas. So what they got me was, because I had all these these
Yeah.
albums in the basement that my mother had collected, and some that I had purchased, and so forth, years ago. And so they got me, believe it or not, a Victrola, a new Victrola.
Wow.
And I think I have an old one in the basement, a real old one that
Yeah.
Stands up. It's on the big
Oh, yeah.
On the table.
Yeah, table. And it plays not only the 3 speeds, 45, 30,
78 and
33, and
33.
78, but it also has a tape deck, and it has a DVD, a CD
Oh.
CD player.
player.
Yeah.
So it's 3 in 1.
Oh, how
So
fun.
all of these tapes that my mother had collected of Swedish songs, folk songs, and
Oh, you get to play it.
I get to play them
Great.
on these tapes. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's nice. And I have it in the living room so I can sit there. There's no TV there, and just read a book and play. And it's very comforting and lovely, yeah.
Yep.
And even the portable turntables, they're very popular because
Yeah.
the quality isn't as good, but most people don't really care as quality like they did like in the
Yeah.
70s when
Yes.
everything had to be
Yeah.
hi-fi, and you went to the person's house that had the best system to listen
Yes,
to the new
biggest
Steely Dan
speakers.
album, and you'd listen from beginning to end and not say a
Yeah.
word because that was the event. Now people listen to music very casually,
Yeah.
and the quality doesn't really
Well,
matter.
some of them have Bluetooth.
Yeah,
You could play
but
a
the
record
quality-
in one room and listen to the speaker
Yeah,
in another.
the quality doesn't matter as much.
And now, to my right, there is a very familiar photograph. Tell us a little bit about that, Anne.
Well, that is the famed, iconic photo of VJ Day, and it's called The Kiss. And that is the kissing sailor, most people know him as. It's been used in all kinds of images in the magazines and movies. But John was his piano tuner, and one day asked him if he wouldn't mind John driving him up from the Newport area and giving a little talk at our shop. He was probably we do have guest speakers at our shop, Gary Highlander, the professor, and others, Jerry Burke, an Irish history professor, but our most profound guest speaker
George
was
taught
the
them all.
kissing sailor. It was like meeting Popeye. And he sat and he told us his story. He was the quartermaster of the USS the Sullivan's ship, and he became a medical ship during a terrible interaction during World War II, and hence the love for nurses. And after that, they sent him on a little shore leave to New York City, and he wanted to ask his steady gal to marry him. And it was during then that there was knocks on the door in the theater, and Japan surrendered. So he said, if you were wearing a uniform, people would hand you liquor.
Drinks around the house.
And everyone was kissing everyone. It just happened to be he was kissing this off-duty dental hygienist, Greta
thought she was a
Friedman,
nurse.
who thought he was, and his future wife is right behind him in that shot. So he wasn't a naughty boy. And it really encapsulates the feeling of a whole generation of relief. And he came to our shop and he gave a little talk, and women were trying to kiss him and take selfies of all ages. And it was probably one of the highlights of our whole
The first
career.
time we had people waiting outside the shop.
Yeah.
There's so many people.
And
to
he
see
signed
him.
autographs, and George has since passed. He passed 2 years ago.
And I noticed that he signed this huge poster.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. He did sign a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
he was into what he did. He's mostly proud that he was the quartermaster. I mean,
Yes.
people just think of him as the kissing sailor, but he was more than that. He
Yeah.
really was quite
He was a hero.
sailor.
He was decorated.
Yeah, and he became a fisherman
Yeah.
afterward.
Yes, he and his
So-
wife Rita lived in a little place in Middletown, Rhode Island, and he was a professional fisherman. And
Right.
they just lived in a humble home. And she never saw the big deal of the kissing sailor thing, but he's probably our claim to fame for our most interesting person
Yeah.
that came to our shop to give a talk. And hopefully after all the COVID protocols are lifted, we'd like to get back to we have these evening programs called 30 Nerdy People, where we have specialty talks about things after closing, and guests like him would come.
Great.
So we look
Well,
forward to that.
Well, we look forward to those nerdy lectures. Some of us nerds really enjoy that.
Yeah.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Moving on. Tell me a little bit about your Berkeley experience. I mean, I'm so impressed that you were, accepted as a student at Berkeley. That's a rarity.
Well, yeah, I got in because I think I'm a pretty good reader. I think that's the key with the Rat Pack too. A drummer that can read really well, you have the advantage. I wasn't the best drummer, but if you can read, you can hang with any band. So I got in this ensemble called the Thad Jones Mel Lewis Band, and a lot of guys in music ed weren't good enough to get in those kind of bands. I was the only person in that whole band that was in music ed. They were all performance majors. And this one kid that came in named Makoto Ozone, who's world class now. He's as good as anybody.
And he's from Japan.
Yes, and I can say I had the pleasure of playing with him for the first time at Berkeley. It was the first ensemble meeting, and he just blew the place away. And I have that recording because he made a little cassette of it because he was excited. He didn't realize how good he was compared to, I think he thought when he went to Berkeley, all the players are going to be better than him, but he was better than everybody. Yeah. So he made this little cassette of that performance, and I still have it now.
How old was he?
He was 18,
No.
and I was 20, because I was in to get in that ensemble, you had to be a certain rating, and you had to audition. And he did neither. He just walked in and just played. They have ratings at Berkeley based on reading, time, and improv. So, and it was scale of 1 to 9. And I had 777. That was pretty good for like a sophomore. And he came in to Berkeley with all 9s. Like you can't get, when he had his audition, they were probably just blown away. But nobody knew him. Now everybody knows him. So I got that cool recording.
Yeah.
So that's when I think of Berkeley, I think of that.
Yeah.
You know.
So, and do you keep in touch with any of your classmates or?
Hardly ever, but I do. Musicians are funny. I'll see them on gigs, and then we'll just talk then, and then we go our separate ways. It's it's a kind of a business where you're really just on your own.
Well, you're in that Cape Cod Art Ensemble too, so you see those guys every week.
One group that I played on the Cape, he was my
Berkeley
teacher at Berkeley, and now I'm playing with him.
Yeah.
You know, that's
Exciting.
kind of funny because he taught harmony, and I was terrible at harmony. Drummers are not usually good at harmony, you know, figuring out chords and stuff.
One place that, I used to go to the Berkeley concerts that students performed, and they were just magnificent.
That's great.
Also, there's the jazz group, the Eagles, Black Eagles band.
I'm not familiar.
You aren't?
No.
Oh my goodness. Okay, but then there was another group of jazz players that were at in Sherborne at a restaurant there, the Sherborne Inn, I think it was called, and once a month. And
is that way out?
And I would go with
in
my
Sherborne, way out there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
I played out there with Chris Pappas, who's a singer.
Okay.
Yeah, they do have like a
jazz.
a jazz feature.
Like a series.
Yeah. No, they don't have it anymore.
Oh, that's
but
why
they
I haven't got a gig.
Yeah, and my late significant other, Warren Nyland, and I would go, and we were just great jazz lovers. Anyway.
That's what we need in the jazz world. We need people that not necessarily play themselves, but just enjoy jazz. That's what we always look for. Those are very valuable to us, because most of the time jazz guys watch other jazz guys and just comparing themselves to them, and you know, it's like, where are we going here?
Artists
you know,
would do the same
it's
thing.
like you're spying and seeing what they do, and it's really not. You're not enjoying the music. You're studying it. It's nice to have people that just go to enjoy.
Enjoy, yeah.
That's
so
valuable.
Speaking of enjoying, I understand that people at Holy Cross really enjoy the music that you create there. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I haven't been at Holy Cross for a little while. I'm just doing adjunct over there, special events, and Holy Cross Fathers as well at the Peyton Center. I've written some of their anthems, gone to Notre Dame, and done retreats with them and stuff. But I've been, last 11 years, I've been at St. Martha in Plainville, which is a collaborative with St. Mary's in Rentham. It's one of those twin church things, and I love it there, and I'm a music director over there. And I was just saying, with the post-COVID, now that we have no masks, people not only coming back to church, but coming back to life. So I've actually just wrote a song about that, and I did write a song called Better Than Ever, because every writer has a COVID song, and we had a little live video of that on our Facebook page.
Okay,
but
so tell us what the address of your Facebook page
The
is.
History Room, at the History Room,
Okay.
the Facebook page. And I'm on iTunes and CD Baby. My recordings they're for sale all over the
Now,
place.
if somebody were to get in touch with you, what's your phone number at the History Room?
508-238-3376.
3376. Great. And your location is 350?
350 Depot, across from the monument, still.
Right in the middle of all the construction.
Yes.
That's-
Follow the orange
Don't be
cones.
afraid. They'll let you in.
Well, I know you can't miss your sign. You have a sign close to the road.
Yeah, it's a
And
great
then
sign.
the building is set way back.
Yeah.
But I really recommend to our viewing audience, take a look, stop by, just browse, and you will be so delighted. For some of us, it's a walk down memory lane. And for others, it's a wonderful place to find that special treasure that you want to share with your family and friends. So thank you so much, Anne,
Thank you.
John.
Thank you.
Wonderful to have you
Thank
here. And take a look at this eclectic arrangement of items here. This is just a small portion of what's available. Let me tell you, I don't think there's room for one more item in your place because they're really good
I agree.
at placing things, and it's just a wonderful collection. Thank you again, Anne DeSanto,
Thank you.
John DeSanto. My pleasure. And until next time, this is Priscilla Almquist-Olsen wishing you well. Take care.